my co-host. She's in Chicago.
I can hear you.
Okay.
Let's see here. It sounds garbled. Hold on one second.
It might be my earbuds. Normally I'm in my office and yeah.
I hear him, but it's garbled, like severe.
Is that better?
Go ahead, try it. Say something else.
Is that better?
But it's a little bit better. Let me try my headset.
Okay.
All right, let's try it. Say something else, my friend.
This is Charles. Can you hear me?
Okay, Charles, I can hear you a little bit better now.
How's the weather in Tennessee?
It is. It's warm, but it's also it's sunny, overcast, so it looks like it could rain at any time now. I got it. But it's nice out. But the rain is coming this weekend.
Okay. I wish we got rain.
Where you all located?
I'm in Southern California.
Southern Cal.
Yeah, so
Always beautiful out there. Y'all charge for everything. Y'all charge for air out in Cali.
right. Big money too, not cheap.
That's exactly right.
So I'm just waiting for Rashana. She should be here any moment. And then we'll just kick it off really quick. Would you be against going live on Facebook while we do this?
What's that? Oh, I'm sorry. Whoa. It came in hot. No, I would just do it regular.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah, it's about going live on Facebook. Yeah. No, let's just do the podcast.
Got it.
Yep.
Hello.
Hello there.
Hi, how are you?
I am well. How are you?
Good. Checking sound and everything here. All right. Okay, I'm good. You can see me and hear me okay?
Yes.
Yes, ma'am.
All right.
All right, let's kick it off. What episode is this? That's actually a good question.
It's like 156
I think that's right.
or 7.
I think it's 157. 157.
Sorry for my tardiness, but thanks so much for joining us. Okay.
Sure. Absolutely.
Let's do it.
All right, I'm good.
So this is the Oglesby Scott Show. This is episode 157. My name is Charles Oglesby, also known as Todd Millionaire, with Miss Rashana Scott. Welcome to the show, Rashana. How you doing?
I'm good. Happy birthday.
Thank you. So make sure you guys leave us a rating, a review, preferably a 5-star review. But thank you all for tuning in. The purpose of this podcast is to share the stories of successful African-American business owners and investors so that people can hear the stories of successful examples. They do exist. We want people to learn that business and investing are the true keys to financial success and generational wealth. With us today, we have a special guest. He is an author. He is a radio host. He is a media personality. He is an all-around successful and well-known individual. We have a special guest today. He goes by the name of Chris Hogan, all the way out of the state of Tennessee. So welcome to the show.
Well, thank you, sir. It's a pleasure to be with you all.
So the very first question we ask, and I know Rashonda's going to ask your background, but I kind of want you to introduce yourself to people. So who are you and where are you from?
Well, I am a financial expert, radio show host, coach, and author. And so I get a thrill out of helping people understand money, understand investing, and to be able to take control of their lives. And born and raised out of Kentucky, lower middle class family there. Went to Georgetown College undergrad, played a little football there back in the day. They don't let me play anymore. I'm too old. But from there, went on to Pennsylvania to graduate school, got my master's there, and then began working off in the business sector. And really got a chance to learn a lot about money, a lot of what to do, but also what not to do.
Right. So can you kind of a little bit deeper into what growing up was like for you?
Well, grew up in a very large, very competitive family. Let's put it that way. Everything we did, from checkers to cards to Scrabble, you had to bring your A game, baby, because people were focused, okay? And but a lot of love. And, my grandparents obviously were the heads of the family, but uncles and aunts, just a lot of love. A lot of people that cared enough about me to maybe see more in me than I thought was possible. And was fortunate not only to have that love and that push in my family, but also in school with teachers and coaches. And so I've had some amazing people pour into me, which, gives me that obligation to want to share with others.
Absolutely. And so getting into radio and financial literacy, like what was that journey like?
You know what? It was, I've always been in positions of leadership all throughout my life. And so jumping into the banking sector and really getting a chance to learn how money worked, because it wasn't something that my family talked about. I was aware that we didn't have a lot, but I wasn't aware of much else. We had the things that were necessary, the things that I needed. Moving into this realm after crossing paths with Dave Ramsey, it began to open up some other doors for me to be able to use. Now, this voice I've had since age 13. So, I went a year sounding like Kermit the Frog, and then all of a sudden this came after. And so, but just an opportunity to be able to use that to try to encourage and educate people.
Mm-hmm.
How did you end up meeting Dave Ramsey? What was that like?
Yeah, it was actually during a charity event. Had a chance to cross paths with him and get connected. And through that, we were able to kind of forge a friendship, so to speak, a business relationship, then a friendship. And it really was one of those things that just began to evolve. Where we were just talking about this money stuff, how you have people that are working hard to make it, but they don't know how to make it work for them. And seeing people taking advantage of. At that time, I was working with private clients. I was working with a lot of professional athletes, entertainers, musicians, and he had some friends that had gotten taken advantage of. And so we were just striking up a conversation, talking about the things that was wrong and what needed to happen to improve it.
It's interesting because I have a banking background, and I feel like banking, when I heard that in your book, I just finished reading Everyday Millionaires, I realized like it gives you that extra that kind of extra edge in the personal finance space. How did banking kind of give you that footing in financial literacy?
Well, here's the reality. I started out probably at the lower end of the whole spectrum. I started out in consumer finance right out of grad school. My goal was to go into the FBI. And so as the Lord began to kind of close that door to open up another one, you know how he does, I was grateful. But at the same time, starting in consumer finance, we were due loans at the beginning of the month, but I had to collect them bad boys at the end. And so, calling people, and that's where it changed, where you're getting on the phone with people and now they're not just an account number. This is a family. These are people that are going through tough times and rough times and beginning to get a better feel for this thing, and moving up the ranks into mainstream banking, where you begin to see the same issues and problems, but people were dressed nicer. They were making more, but the issues were still there. And even off into the private client side, where you got people that are making a really good income, but they've got a whole lot of debt. And so I realized that it wasn't anything that was necessarily particular to one segment or not. This boiled down to having knowledge. Do you know how to make money work for you? Because if not, it will work you, right? And so I began to see this lack of understanding and knowledge is the gap.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Yeah, I remember, and I've shared this story many a times on our podcast. My financial literacy journey started kind of mid high school, but really right out of high school. Like you said, realizing that the things that I was learning, the books that I was reading, like we were not having these conversations, at our dinner tables with our families. And so I want to ask you, so what are some of the main things that you're seeing that people are having an issue with in the financial literacy sector?
Well, I think it is really understanding the process, like helping people to understand that money will obey you, right? Like if you tell it to sit, it'll sit. Like money obeys better than kids do. But we have to understand what to make it do. Like working hard isn't enough. Working hard to make it. Like I used to think, okay, when I start making X, I'm going to get more serious with my money, right? And then you work hard and you make X and you say, okay, no, I was just playing. When I get to this one, this is where I'm going to buckle down. And the next thing you know, you have lifestyle creeping up, right? Because you're working hard and you've got these wants. So you feel like I need to have something to show for it. And you can get so caught up in that race that you forget that, hey, I'm sprinting right now, but I need to prepare for this marathon. And so I think it's the lack of understanding of just some of the terms, a lack of understanding of some of the products out there that are bondage and are designed to keep you in bondage, right? And then understanding how to change that mindset and shake off, the things. Breaking cycles is what I call it. And it is possible because I'm seeing people do it all the time. But you have to get to that point where you say, I've had enough. Right? I'm ready to change. And it's got to be more than lip service. It's got to be something from your heart.
Yeah.
Funny, because you mentioned something that I've kind of talked about, but I wasn't too sure that was the actual case. And you're talking about financial bondage and certain products that keep you tied to having to go to work for other people or having to do all these different things that don't allow you to really be free. So for those who don't know, can you talk to us about what some of those things might be?
Sure. Well, there are so many of those products out there that have been marketed to us to look cute and to look funny, right? Like these credit card commercials. I'll never forget years ago with my boys, they would see that and, it was a Capital One, what's in your wallet, right? And they would say, Dad, what's in your wallet? And I'd say cash, right? And they chuckle and they knew, that's all the only thing. But we laugh at those things, but people start to get caught up and they get their identity and how long they've had that credit card or what card they have in their wallet. And so credit cards, I'm going to call it straight out. These are one of those tools where it can kind of continue to keep you in that mindset and give you a false sense of security. Debt is a thief. Okay, I'm just going to call it what it is because it steals from your income, it steals from your peace of mind, but it also steals from your future. And so credit cards are one of them. Another one that's commonly thought of as, oh no, it's good debt, car loans. Okay, I'm going to tell you right now, car payments. If you think about this and you start to dissect that industry, how they don't tell you how many years a car loan is, they talk about it in months. Right? It's only 60 months. It's only 72 months. People, please, that's 5 years and 6 years, right, of making XYZ payment. And so that's something that's become normalized. And one of the most gruesome out there are these payday loan places. These things are charging anywhere from 300 to 400% interest. And they've tried to go through this new change now where they're now a credit line instead of a loan, but it's still exorbitant in what it's charging people. And so those are the things that I call out. I want people to see it. And then you've got to change some things, right? The definition of insanity is to keep doing the same thing over and over, but expecting a different result. I want people to think differently so they can do better.
You're on mute, Rashana.
What are some things in the credit space that you're seeing? Because I know credit is a huge thing. It's a huge issue. There's a lot of myths around good credit, bad credit. You know, just so many lies. Like I feel like within our community around that topic. And so, what are some of the things that you see and discuss often with your clients?
Well, I think, first and foremost, as it comes to talking about credit, it goes back to the whole credit card industry. First and foremost, I hear people say all the time, I want to build up my credit. And as a banker, I can remember I used to have people jump through hoops to protect their credit score. I mean, I would tell them, like, listen, if you don't do this, this, and this, your credit score, okay? I mean, and that's all you had to say, and people would do whatever they needed to do. But as I started to dig into it and understand how money works, you start to figure out something. The FICO score, right? This is the thing that everyone looks at and they go, boy, I need that to be big. But here's the deal. A FICO score is made up of how much debt you have, how well you've paid the debt, the type of debt that you have, closed-end or open, revolving, the likelihood that they'll give you more debt in the future. I'm not the sharpest knife in the drawer, but of those four measurements, it all had to do with debt. And so a FICO score has nothing to do with your wealth. I know people that have a 780 FICO score, but don't have two nickels to rub together. And so it's just this thing of helping people to understand the FICO score is not an indication of how well you're doing. The FICO score is an indication of how much more debt someone's willing to give you.
Yeah, it's funny because as my my wealth has increased, I've started to buy more things in cash. And I know one of the things that you mentioned is that, like, usually millionaires, they don't use credit cards, but people who are kind of aspiring to be millionaires, they're the people who are swiping those credit cards so they can look as though they have that money. I wanted to talk to you about your first book, Retire Inspired. So can you kind of talk to us about what that book is about and what that concept means?
Yeah, as I started off with Dave, and I've been with him 15 years now, as I said, I was working with pro athletes, entertainers, and musicians, but then it morphed into where I was working with everyday people. And I was talking to people that weren't saving for retirement, but they kept making the statement, well, I'm going to have Social Security, right? And they were saying it like they were confident, like it was going to be the big brother to save the day. And I'm thinking, well, hold on a minute, because back then, the average payment of Social Security was around $1,200 a month. And I'm thinking, well, hold on. If the average new car payment then was close to $500 and the average used car was $350 and the average mortgage payment was close to $950 and the average credit card debt, I started doing the math. With the Social Security check that was coming in, you couldn't pay for two of those things alone. And so it became this thing of, hey, Social Security is not going to save the day for you. Okay, it's just not. And so, and people would say, well, I've got that. And so I thought, somebody's got to do something, right? We got too many people, and I was running into people in the age 20, 30, 40, 50. Everybody had this mindset that it was going to be okay. And I wanted them to know it wasn't, because if you don't start to save and you don't start to get intentional, it means you have to work longer. It means you have to work harder. And so my Retire Inspired was my attempt to give people a wake-up call about retirement, that it's not an old people thing. Retirement is a smart people thing. And, we hear the age 65 and everybody's like, ooh, that's when you get to retire. Not so fast. Because if you don't have the money set aside or you've got too much debt, what you get to do is to continue to work. Right. And so there's no guarantee that you get to stop. So I knew I couldn't get around to everybody and sit in their living room and coach them. But I thought, if I can write this book and get people to look at this and start to think a little bit broader about the situation, they can start to make changes.
Absolutely. Yeah. So what are some tips that you give in the book for people to start, like you said, saving or investing for their retirement, rather than, like you said, sitting around and just waiting for Social Security?
Rashana, I'm going to tell you this right now. The eye-opening thing for me was to have people have a dream meeting. And what I mean by that is, I'll tell you all the stories. So my dryer had died. Okay. And I had shook this thing, duct taped it, prayed over it, laid hands on it. You know how it is. When it's done, it's done. You got to go get another one. And so
Right.
I was going into the store to check out a new one. And as I walked in, I saw 5 dudes standing around this TV. And it was an 85-inch super duper TV. Like, I had never seen football this clear. And girl, I used to play it. Okay. It was unbelievable. And we stood around looking at this thing. I could see the grass blowing in the wind. And it was just, I saw sweat about to come out of somebody's pore. That's how clear this thing was. And I left out of there. Of course, I went and I found my dryer, and I went home, and it was about a week later. And I thought, there it is. I keep telling people that I don't want you to work hard just to work hard. I want you to live your dreams. All have stuff deep down in our heart that we want to do, whether it's to do something for your grandparents or your parents, to travel, or to start a business, or whatever it is. And I thought, if I could get people to tap into that dream that's in their heart and use that as the why, then what I can do is show them the how and the planning. See, each individual has to bring the why. You can get motivated for a little while, but that's going to fall off. But if you have internal drive to be able to do something for your kids or your grandkids or your nieces or nephews, right, that's a thing that'll get you up out of bed and get you focused. And so my start point in Retire Inspired is getting people to have that high definition dream, like I saw that high definition TV. And I think that first step is to get you connected with your spouse if you're married, or if you're single or newly single, get you connected with an accountability partner, just to start to talk about those dreams. So now we can start to show you how to get there.
So after you establish that vision, are we telling people to maybe work overtime? Are they going to be picking up some different investments? Are they going to be starting that business? What kind of steps forward can they take from there?
Well, I think the big thing is understanding, okay, we know now what the vision is that's set. Now what we need is a plan. And that plan and that process is what I kind of take people through in understanding. We've got to figure out what are the things, we got to play offense and we got to play defense, Charles. And, you know, as a former sports guy, it just makes sense to me, right? Offense is I've got to begin to do things for my money. The defensive side is I need to protect it. And so the things for your money to do are budgeting. Right? Beginning to understand how much is coming in, how much is going out, and where do I need to put some restrictions in place, right? And I'll tell myself, for me, it was food. It was eating out and grocery shopping. What I found out was, the short story, once I sat down and looked at my bank statements, I wasn't buying food out of need, I was buying out of habit. I would get up and go every Saturday morning and buy XYZ. It wasn't a big thing to spend $300 to $400, right? I had enough food in the pantry, you'd have thought I was starting a grocery store. It was out of habit. It wasn't out of need. And so I called myself out and said, you know what? I'm not spending that anymore, right? I'm going to redirect this money to something toward more beneficial for me in the long run. So the first part is that planning, that budgeting. Next, then we got to identify where your money leaks. Just like a hole that you poke in the bottom of a bucket. We can scoop water up in a bucket, but if I've got 4-inch size holes in there, the water is draining out. That's exactly what happens with debt. Your bucket is being drained. And so we've got to begin to look and say, okay, let's get real about this debt. This credit card's not my friend. Just because it says you've been a member since '92 doesn't mean you're a part of a country club, right? It means you're a part of the debt club. So we got to get real. And so if you budget, we got to identify our money, get my money back, right? You get yourself a raise when you get out of debt, then you begin to save, then you begin to invest. And so people need that 3 to 6 month emergency fund before they start to invest. Throughout this COVID-19, we have seen, if people don't understand the importance of an emergency fund now, they ain't never going to learn it. Okay, I'm going to tell you right now, just point blank. And so you look at it and you go, boy, you know, because we've all done stupid with money before, but now what we have to do is learn from it. That's how you break a cycle. It's that you make a decision and you put a stake in the ground and you begin to push, pull, or drag yourself to better.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's interesting because for so long, there's so many folks who they don't look at it that way. And like you said, it really, really, really is a mental shift that has to take place. And it's getting folks to look at the long-term benefit versus right now. Like, so we're so consumed with living check to check and just getting through right now, and concerned with, just working for now instead of working smarter and not harder. So what are some of the biggest challenges that you see around trying to get individuals to make that mindset shift?
The biggest issues. I think it's a couple things. The first one is skepticism. Okay. And what skepticism means is that they doubt that it's possible. Okay. They don't think it's really possible. Like they can hear stories of other people doing it, but they'll go, well, their situation ain't as tough as mine, or I got this going on. So you got skepticism, that they are doubtful that it's even possible. But this next one is the one that is really tough to overcome. And that's cynicism. Cynicism, but you don't believe that it's possible for you as an individual. Okay. Skepticism is you're doubtful it's possible. Cynicism means you don't think you can get helped. And so those two things are the things that I end up battling the most. And a lot of times it can come from the way people were raised, or the fact that maybe they've started it and it just didn't work out. Right. And so they've had some false starts. And so they're now doubtful and skeptical that it can happen at all. And so the big thing is I'm helping people get past themselves. And to really start to be honest and go, hey, if you ain't going to do it, then tell me you're not going to do it. Okay. But don't tell me you can't, just tell me you won't. Right. And I just call people out. I just put you point blank, because here's the deal. The path I'm on, I'm going to be all right. Okay. I'm changing legacies. Like, I'm not flapping my gums talking about it. I'm living this stuff, and I want more people to. But we have to get out of our own way a little bit, and you got to get motivated. You said there's a mind shift. You know what I think has to happen first, Rashana? I think people have to get mad. I think people got to get a little PO'd and look at
about that.
Go, I deserve better than this, right? I want better than this, and I'm ready to do something to help me get better. Until you get to that point, I don't think people ever change anything.
You're right. You're right. Because I'm thinking about some of the things that I've had to change in my life. And when I got upset about it, oh yeah, that's when I made the change.
See, and it's me too. And when it takes us having to get there, right? Because anytime you shift and you're going to chase something, here's the thing that they don't ever talk about. You've all heard about goal setting, right? We talk about the goal, set the goal, write it down, keep it in your eyes, and da-da-da-da-da, and it sounds cute. And then I realized something. Y'all left out something with this goal setting stuff. It's the sacrifice factor. Like, so now when I talk to people about what they want to achieve, the second thing I ask them is why? And they go, well, I want to do this. And I go, hey, third one, who wins if you reach that goal? And they start to tell me the people in their family and their community that would benefit if they hit that goal. And the fourth thing I ask them is this: what are you willing to give up to get it? What are you willing to sacrifice? See, we'll talk about the positives. And so the sacrifice is probably going to have to give up watching some TV. Probably going to have to give up worrying about the latest pair of jeans that are out that don't do nothing but fold and go in the laundry, right? You got people paying $700 for a pair of jeans. I don't understand. Does it come with an assistant? What does it do, right? Nothing. It doesn't do anything. So you got to think different. And so coming up with that and what you're willing to sacrifice really helps people identify just how serious they are about it.
I feel like I was listening to a podcast and they were talking about, like, we always downplay sacrifice, but it's like, well, what are you sacrificing? You're probably sacrificing a life that you're not satisfied with in the first place to get the life that you truly want.
Ooh.
I feel like that's interesting. So at what point in time did you stop kind of chasing just retirement and start chasing millionaire status? Because I know that you said that you've reached that point. And I feel like those, maybe they might be the same thing. That I think they kind of are different a little bit.
Yeah, I think, the mindset is, for me, and I have 3 boys. And so for me, I think my big thing is, and my youngest son is a special needs boy. And so that's my heart right there. But I realized something. One of the top 2 fears in a study of retirement that people have, first fear is obviously running out of money. Makes sense. The second fear blew me away and kind of shocked me a little bit and was an eye-opener. The second fear was fear of becoming a burden to friends and family. And you think about that. If you can't take care of you, if you've not set up funds to be there to take care of yourself, then the obligation falls to friends, to family, and then friends. Well, I know I love my boys with my whole heart. I want to be a blessing to them. I don't ever want to be a burden to them. And so that for me was that first kind of push of going, hey, I got to look, whoa, this is important. I've got to make some changes here, especially if you're wanting a legacy. And my grandparents were incredible people, and made an incredible impact on this little country boy. But they made a sacrifice, right? And they passed me this baton by spending time and planting dreams and helping me to think different. And so having kids gets you to wake up because you want to make sure they have better than what you had. But at the same time, I want to hand these boys the baton, but I want to hand it to them further down the path than when I got it. And so I've got to run my race. I've got to do my part. And so it is different. You do it first initially to be able to secure your future, right? And then the next side of it is hey, all I got to do is stay focused and not get sidetracked. And the plan that I'm working is also a wealth building plan, right? And so it doesn't mean you can't have some stuff. I'm just not going to let stuff have me, which means, Charles, I'm going back to I'm paying cash for stuff, right? I'm never again going to have a car payment. Haven't had one since 1998, and I ain't going backwards, you know? And so it's this different mindset. I don't care what kind of sale they have going on, right? If I don't have the cash, I'm not doing it. See, that's where I've learned from my stupid. I've learned from my mistakes, and I'm not going to sugarcoat it, and I'm not going backwards.
So do you believe that there's a such thing as good debt?
I don't necessarily say if I would say that there's good debt. I'd say that there's a tolerable debt, and that's a 15-year fixed rate mortgage.
You know, what's interesting is I wanted to ask you about the mortgage in the beginning when we were talking about bondage. And I feel like we're sold a 30-year and people don't even consider the 15-year. And so can you talk about the benefits of the 15-year versus the 30-year mortgage and why you go that way?
So I would prefer when people are buying homes, I would prefer they do 100% down. Right, 100% down. I didn't say 100% financing. All right, hear that, because people hear what they want to hear with that. So I gotta back it up a little bit. Deep voice, people can't understand what I said. I said 100% down. That means you don't borrow nothing. That's the most fantastic way to do it. But mortgages are big, and I understand people. You know, I tell people I want you to put a minimum of 10% down. I wish it was 20, so you get out of the private mortgage insurance (PMI), which can add $150 to $350 to your payment. And all that does is protect the lender, not you. But back to your question, I get riled up. People buy based off payments, okay? And people will gravitate to the lowest payment. And so, you know, you look at this and the difference between a 30 and a 15-year mortgage can be anywhere from $500 to $600, maybe a little bit more. But we're talking about a 15-year difference. This is very important for people to know and understand, because banks are going to push the 30. It's the cheapest payment. It's the way they can keep you around the longest, right? They get more interest out of you. And so that's where it goes back to educating people so they have knowledge about it. Here's the other thing, Charles. I don't know if you've seen these out your way or not, but have you heard about the 40 and 50-year mortgages? Oh, yeah. Yeah, they're coming. Yeah, they've started out on the West Coast. They are being done. And what's that doing with the payment? It's taking the 30-year payment and shrinking it even more. Y'all know the house costs is out in California. I mean, they charge for air out there, baby. So it is, you know, it's one of those things we've got to help people understand so they can avoid being taken advantage of.
We were talking about how we have to change people's mindsets. And I feel like that's why platforms like these are so key, because we're being outspent. We can't even go on to the TV. I mean, maybe you can, but we can't go and advertise on TV like the credit card companies are. And so they're able to get their message out ahead of our message. And so we have these platforms that can do that. You mentioned in your book, and I wanted to ask you this question, because you said that before you got to Millionaire, you're working, and then when you met Dave Ramsey, that's kind of what took you to $1 million levels. What changed? What changed in what you were doing?
I totally would tell you. The plan. Like, I knew about the hard work. I knew about the making money, but it was the plan. Having that thing in place, being able to be intentional, to get yourself out of debt, to be able to build up that 3 to 6 month emergency fund, to be able to then invest 15% of your household income year after year, 15%, and then to be able to save for college, pay off the home early, then build wealth and give. And it was the order. And so instead of trying to do 8 things at once, it was more linear, more clear, and very easy to follow. And so that was the thing that took things to the next level.
Right.
Mm-hmm. And before we get too far off of the mortgage and housing topic, I'm sure you've heard this many times before, that there's like this never-ending discussion or debate around a house being a liability or an asset. So I wanted to get your thoughts on that.
Okay. Well, for me, a home is something that is an appreciable asset. Okay. It is something that is going to grow in value. Obviously, the average, according to the study I did, we did the largest study. I don't know if we've said this to your listeners or not, but we did the largest study of millionaires ever done. We talked to over 10,000 of them, and the average millionaire was paying off their home in just at around 11 years. Okay. And so even though you take out a 15-year mortgage, I want you to pay it off early. But looking at the home, I look at it as an asset, because push come to shove, I can sell it, right? And then I'm going to have some equity from that left over. Now, if you're doing some creative junkery, as I call it, out there in Cali and in New York, like they do, where people go in with 3 mortgages and a HELOC, that's where you can get yourself in trouble. So I think, the mindset for me is we're going to pay it off. I know some places will call the home a liability. Again, there is a mortgage that you owe on it. But again, if you bought it the right way, you can sell it to even get out from under that if you had to.
Yeah. There's been a debate on Twitter lately, and people were saying that instead of paying off your house, it's better to invest that money. What's your stance on that?
Charles, I think it's ridiculous. You know what? It sounds cute in theory. That's just like people trying to diet and lose weight. They say, hey, all you got to do is eat less. That's all you got to do. Seriously, there's a billion-dollar industry out there with diet tablets and shake easies and all these other little tools. Just all you got to do is eat less and go exercise. There it is. See, here's the reality. Point blank, trying to hold on to the mortgage for the write-off is absurd. Okay, I would rather you pay off the home, get the risk out of your life, and you want the tax write-off? How about you do some giving? Find some single moms, a cause that you can get behind. Get behind some wounded veterans and give the money away. You can get the tax write-off from that as well. And so, no, I don't want people holding on to it. I want them to pay it off, own it outright. You know, the foreclosure rate on paid off homes, have y'all ever heard this? Is zero. It's zero. They don't foreclose on homes that are paid off. So guess what? Let's pay it. Let's pay it off. Let's be able to have an asset to pass on. To, again, down the legacy, to be able to do this the right way. So tell them people on Twitter to wake up, get intentional, pay off the house. Tell them I said it. I don't care.
After you have that paid off home, are you putting it into a trust? Are you putting it into an LLC? How do you protect that asset?
Great call. I tell people, if you have a home paid off, you have investable assets of $450,000 or more, this is where you want to look at getting a trust set up. And again, being able to do that simply means that the trust is the owner. And so it's a way to insulate you from any kind of lawsuits or any kind of liabilities, because you as the person aren't the owner, the trust is. And so that's an advanced level thing, but yes, it is something you can look into, as well as umbrella insurance, which is just like an umbrella will keep rain off of you. An umbrella policy, once you have a net worth of $1 million or more, or your home's paid off and your cars are, an umbrella policy is an extra layer of coverage over your homeowners and your auto. And so it's just another way to protect you. $1 million, $2 million in an umbrella policy will cost a couple $100 a year. So it's not super expensive, but can be very helpful.
You said something a little while ago that I think is so key, and I want to go back to it. I was like the queen of going back to, I'm like, wait, you said something, I want to talk about it, because I literally just had a conversation yesterday with a potential client, and you said if you buy right, your property or your home can be an asset. And obviously there's greater advantages that you can take advantage of by buying right. And so I had a conversation with a young lady yesterday who she was under contract on a property with another realtor. She was thinking about, she wanted to work with me now as her realtor. And she was asking me, should she pay more for the property than what it appraised at? Because she's desperate to own a property. And this is the market. I mean, it's definitely a seller's market right now. There's not enough inventory to meet the demand of the buyers. And so she was under contract on the property. And the property came back, praised below the value twice. Now this is twice now. So now she's like, what do I want? What should I do? I really, really want a property. And I'm telling her, like, be patient and hold out. Like, I'm like, I don't know who your agent is, but they should not be advising you to pay more for a property than what it's worth. And especially in the state of the market in which we're in, nobody knows which way this thing is going to turn out, 12 months from now, 18 months from now. We don't know, is it going to be a full-on recession or whatever the case. However, I'm telling her, I'm like, hey, especially in the areas that you're looking to purchase in, home values have increased so much. And so if and when a correction does come to correct, not totally recess, but correct, you're going to immediately be upside down. I mean, you're talking about taking out 2 mortgages, basically. Like, she was talking about working out something with the seller for the additional 20 grand, plus the original mortgage. And I'm like, absolutely not.
Yeah.
And I just,
That's
what are your thoughts?
Situations where you have somebody that truly wants something so bad that they're not thinking clearly, right?
Right.
That's where they've got their want so confused that it actually looks like a need in their brain, but it's really a want. She wants a house, and there's nothing wrong with wants, but we got to be adult enough to tell a want it needs to wait and do it the right way. And I agree. And so with people like that, in telling them, they'll either eventually listen and gear down, or they're going to run on and they're going to make something happen that can end up not being such a blessing down the road. And so hopefully she will slow herself down and be able to just think clearly. But, when you've tried to get a couple of houses and it didn't work out, and they get pulled up from under you, what happens is now you get on a mission. You're like, no, house. Like, they wake up, house. That's the only thing they can think. And we got to settle her down. So I hope you can talk some sense into her. I hope you can help her to breathe and let her to know you will be able to get a house one day, but you want to do it the right way.
Yeah, she said she's going to fire her realtor and work with me. So
that's good. And hopefully, just reassure her, because there's something in her that feels like if she doesn't do it now, she'll never be able to. And that's a lie. And so we want to call out the lies and let that be known so she can hear some reason.
Absolutely. And especially because a lot of what's going on in predominantly Black communities by individuals and developers and rehabbers who do not live within those communities. So the rehabbing is being done, the prices are being jacked up. And again, like, these values aren't even real. It's overinflated due to the supply and demand of the market.
What state are you in?
I'm in Chicago.
You're in Chicago. Okay, gotcha.
Yep. So we're not like priced like California or New York, but prices are up there in certain neighborhoods.
Right.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. You have anything else, Charles?
I don't know how we are on time. I know.
Yeah. Do you have a hard stop at 3?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I think we will start transitioning towards the wrap-up questions.
Okay.
And the first question is, who is somebody that you look up to and why?
I have to tell you this. One of the people that my coaches and people would call out and use was Zig Ziglar. And Zig was an individual that taught on just the mindset, positive thinking. And I had a chance to meet him about 12 years ago. And it was an absolute honor. And that was something I really, in reading, especially in college, as I started to really jump into it, it started to help me develop my thought process. And for me, what I truly believe was possible. And so I'm very grateful for the information that he put out and wrote. And I had a chance to see him speak a few times as well.
Nice. So what does success mean to you?
Success means options. I have options. I don't have a bunch of have-tos. I have some get-tos. And options means that I can make some choices for myself. People aren't making them for me. And I've got the option to be able to go spend time to mentor. I've got the option to go spend time on mission trips. to go do speaking gigs and things for free without having to charge. I mean, it gives options, and that's one of my favorite words.
I love it.
Off script, but what is some common misconceptions that people have about millionaires?
Oh gosh, there's so many. You know, one of the things people think is that, you know, they inherited their money. That meant that somebody in their family had it and they just handed it to them, so now they have some. Granted, that does happen and it goes on, but in this study we did, when we talked to over 10,000 of them, almost 80% did not inherit a dime. So these were first generation wealth builders. Another one is that you have to have a large income. You got to make a big income in order to become a millionaire. Not true. A third of the millionaires we studied didn't have a six-figure household income. Hello? Yeah. Did you hear me? This is all a third. Okay. Admit 2 people were working outside of the home and combined, they didn't make 6 figures. How'd they do it? They got intentional in working the plan, getting out of debt, investing, and letting the money they invested remain invested, right? They didn't treat that like an emergency fund where they're pulling money in and out. You put it in, you let it sit because you have that long-term thinking. But there's a bunch of others inside the book that you have to go to a prestigious school. Not true. 62% of the millionaires we studied went to a public state university. 9% went to a community college. 8% didn't graduate. And so I wanted to knock down these myths because I wanted people to understand the reality and what's true so they can understand what's possible for them.
What is your favorite business or real estate book?
Oh, my favorite, favorite business book. I've got to say it, and it's going to sound crazy, but it's Who Moved My Cheese, right? That's one of my favorite ones. It's a short, quick read, but it talks about dealing with change. It talks about mindset. I love Good to Great, and most any book by John Maxwell. That man can hiccup a book, right? I mean, he's prolific. He's got it amazing. But I think, you know, his 21 irrefutable laws of leadership are absolutely amazing for people, regardless of if you're working for someone or self-employed. If you can find something by John Maxwell, it's worth the time.
Good. And the last wrap-up question before we let you go is, what do you think sets apart successful business owners and investors from those who fail, give up, or never get started?
Oh, I would say it boils down to probably 2 things. Positive mindset and perseverance. Positive mindset will always go tactical as well as strategic, and being able to look at things and figure out, okay, what's next? One of my coaches told me things are never as good as they seem or as bad as they seem, but in the middle, reality falls, right? And I think in the middle of this and in the middle of the challenges that come, we've got to learn to look for opportunities, right? We don't have time to be woe is me. We don't have time to whine. We've got to be intentionally looking to push ourselves. And the perseverance part, you know, people that only do well when things are great, they make me nervous, right? People that don't have any scratches or bruises on them because they hadn't been through no life. Those people make me nervous. I don't want to be around them long because something's coming for them, right? But people that have bumps and scrapes, that have been through some stuff, but they haven't let that stuff stop them, those are people that I love to be around because you can learn from them. You can learn, hey, this is how you push forward. This is how you drag yourself, even when you don't feel like it, for the sake of the mission. And I think those 2 things, the positive mindset and perseverance, those are 2 things that are absolutely vital to anyone that's been successful.
Absolutely. That's good. Well, thank you so much for all of the information that you share with our listeners. How can people find you, connect with you, and support what you have going on?
Well, listen, Rashana and Charles, it was a pleasure to be with you guys. Thank you for the conversation. If people want to learn more about the Chris Hogan Show or the tools and things that I have, both books, Retire Inspired as well as Everyday Millionaires, they can go to chrishogan360.com. That's chrishogan360.com.
Yeah, great book. I'm definitely recommending it to anybody who is looking to find out the path to millions. But this is episode 157. My name is Charles Oglesby with Rashana Scott and Mr. Chris Hogan. Powerful episode. Make sure you find all the links to what he has going on in our show notes. And we'll catch you on the next one of these. Nice.
All right. Thank you guys
Thank
so
you.
much. It was a pleasure.
Thank you so much. When will it be up, Charles? Next week?
Today is Thursday, probably Monday.
Monday. Okay, so it'll be up Monday.
Let Sharon know, and we'll make sure we push on social on our end as well.
Awesome. That'd be great.
All right,
Thank
you.
Thank you so much for the time.
Take care. Thank you.